Hey everybody, welcome to the Productivity Academy Weekly Q&A. Today is the 8th of November. All right, real quick, what we're going to be covering today is some top productivity tools and tips, a question about that, the most effective time management techniques, and the secret to productive people working really long hours. Hint, this probably won't come as a surprise, but it's not what you think. All right, so before we get into that, just wanted to say, if you haven't yet subscribed on YouTube and you want to stay up to date, just click the subscribe button. If you're watching this on Facebook, feel free to check out the page. If you click like, you can stay up to date and you'll get notifications. If that's not your thing, I'm going to be putting together a Facebook group where we can all get in there and then just share some tips, how-tos, and spread the information. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. If you're interested in that or you have thoughts on that, let me know. I have some ways to deal with Facebook notifications because it's a balancing act, right? You want to have interaction and you want to talk to people and find out and share your information, both myself and you, and get help on ideas about productivity or time management, whatever your specific issue is, but then we don't want to get sucked into the Facebook black hole, right? So there's ways to go about that, and I'll be talking about that some more. Anyways. Moving right along, so let's get into it. The question was, what are some of your best productivity tools and tips? So kind of a 2-for-1 here. We'll go into that. As far as tools, I'll give the blanket statement that the best productivity tool is the one that works for you, okay? I will say that I think that there's a lot of tools that can work well for a lot of people, and specifically I can talk to the ones that I've used, and then out of those, the ones that I find very effective. Okay, so with those, I like to have a couple of things are very important. I need to have something that works offline, okay, and that can be paper or pen. Generally, I like it to not have a battery because if something dies or I don't have Wi-Fi, then that's a problem. I want to have a digital one that works across all my devices. Okay, for myself, I have an Android phone. I have a Chromebook, I have a Windows PC, and I've got an old Linux laptop laying around here somewhere. Okay, but things need to generally work. So it's either browser-based or just cross-platform. Okay, and then that's kind of the big area, okay? So I've got my best self journal. That's one of my tools. I've got a post-it note thing here, so when I'm at a meeting or even sometimes during these, if I think of something real quick, I'll scribble something down. And then I use a lot Todoist, and I also highly recommend Focuster. The only reason I'm not actively using Focuster as much is both my assistant and my wife use Todoist, and so we're able to exchange information and share projects and labels and things like that much easier. And getting them to move over to Focuster would have been, I think, a little bit more trouble than it was worth. So if you're starting, though, I would recommend that because there's a lot of interesting tie-ins, and you can go look at my Focus videos and see if that's a tool for you. Okay, and the reason I recommend those is for what I mentioned at the beginning, is that they're cross-platform and they do what I need them to do. The important thing about taking random notes, though, is to make sure that of all of these tools, you need a system. Okay, and my system is that I then sit down once a day and go through them and collect everything, because there's other things I do use, like Evernote. But that's not my necessarily go-to area. It's just another note collection area and organizational system for notes and reference and projects and things like that. But what I do is then take that information to make sure I go over all of it, compare it to my calendar, and then schedule my day. And then at the end, as long as I have enough time in the day, I don't beat myself up if I don't do this, but I like to take 5 minutes and I go through, and this was from Cal Newport. If you've read Deep Work, I highly recommend checking it out. I'm going to reread it. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor and pick up that book. But he wrote an article on his blog about sitting down and having done what he called a shutdown procedure, and just saying, okay, at the end of the day, go through, check your calendar for the next day. Do you have any loose notes? Literally, like if you have some Post-its laying around, make them into action items, whatever that is for you. If it's in your notebook or if it's in your to-do list or whatever it is, so that then you can look and say, okay, I am done for the day. If anything comes up between now and whenever I start working again, I can just put it into one of my systems and I'll deal with that when I next sit down. So, all right, I think that's that kind of includes the tips. Okay, so as always, that daily review is very important, and then if you can do it at the end of the day, so you're doing it twice, But it doesn't have to take up a lot of time. It could be, 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of the day, maybe more depending on how much planning you have to do. And then at the end of the day, it's just getting all that information, all your loose ends, closing things out or rescheduling them, looking at your calendar for the next day, saying, okay, I'm good to go. There's no loose ends that are, going to keep me up tonight. And then mentally just telling yourself, I'm done, and then putting things away. So, all right, I think that's a really good one. And then this also works well for the next question. What are the most effective and proven time management techniques? It's a good question, and I would say that there's really two parts to this. I think that if you have absolutely no time management, which really isn't a thing, but if you're worried that your time management maybe could be better or it's not as good as it should be, is that you start with mapping out your time. And what I mean by that is probably start with pen and paper, something you can just put on yourself, like a 3x5 index card, and mark it off in 30-minute segments and line it out. Maybe have a couple cards, however this works best for you. It's just really important that you do it in a way that you can stick with for a week. Try to keep track of your time for a week, all right? Set some normal hours, do it more outside of business, do it not only for business hours, but also then a little bit of your personal time. I didn't do this for 24 hours a day, but I wanted to see, hey, how much time am I, spending when I make coffee and get some breakfast? Does that vary day to day? I don't know. Finding out things like that about yourself can be really helpful, and then you can start to schedule around that. So I'll warn you that this is very difficult to do, and it's like deceptively simple, but keeping track of your time for 30-minute time blocks for a week is really hard. And so don't beat yourself up if you can't do it. Try to go back, remember what you were doing. Just don't let yourself skip like a full day, because then it gets almost impossible to remember. So do that, and then that'll really give you some real insights into what is going on in your day today. Then from that, you can take that into time planning. And as far as that, doing a daily review when you sit down at 7, 8, 9 in the morning, get out your calendar, look at what you've got going on for the day, what have you got for your tasks, and then doing your best job at saying, okay, here's how I can accomplish these, here's how much time it's going to take, here's what my day looks like. And then what else? Do you leave some crunch time so that, because most things expand, you have unexpected meetings, things happen. It's just getting that process going and finding out what's going to work for you, and then adjusting accordingly. Because at first you probably won't be that accurate, and over time though you can say, okay, I know this type of a task generally, I thought it was going to take me an hour, it only takes 45 minutes, or I thought this task would take 15 minutes, it takes an hour, things like that. So just investing a little bit of your time and energy into that really starts to pay off very quickly. Cool, good question. Okay, and then the last question for the day is, how do successful people stay productive working long hours? I would say that there's two sides to this that I want to answer. Is one, the people that I admire the most don't work long hours and yet are still insanely productive. Okay, and that can take a long time, and that's a very loose definition. But for myself, again, it's not about, I use this a lot, but it's not about just cranking out widgets, right? Or like, man, I accomplished 100 tasks today, like my life is good and I'm productive. Like, well, maybe, but what'd you do? Did you like shuffle 100 pieces of paper and put them into the inbox? Or, what is it you're actually doing? Are you doing, are you being productive towards like major goals, and how that kind of helps you in your life and how you're moving forward? So I think having a different measuring stick is important. Like, again, what goals are you being productive towards? But then saying, okay, there are times when you just got a lot to do and you got to get it done. Okay, so I will say that, we can't always be doing some 4-hour work week type of thing. A lot of times it comes up, you got a project, you got a deadline, what someone else is depending on you, you said you get it done, or something just happens. Occasionally you do have to put out that fire. Okay, so what I would say is, again, know yourself, but for most people, you can't work 8 hours straight. Okay, you can't sit down and do it. Hell, I can't sit down and work like 3 hours straight. I just lose it. So a lot of this goes into planning and saying, okay, recognizing ahead of time that you have this, a large amount of work or whatever that needs to be done, and then planning and saying, how can I break it down? Okay, break it into actionable tasks instead of saying, oh my God, I have this huge project that I have to do in 48 hours. Okay, that's fine. That's the end goal. Break it down. What's a milestone? You know, are there 3 major pieces to this that need to be done? Okay, take that one piece. What are the 3 actionable items inside of that that can be done? So start listing that stuff out. That'll help you both mentally prepare and say, okay, you know, this isn't some insurmountable task that I want to avoid, and also give you discrete checkpoints that will help you keep that momentum going, and you can see you're making progress. Okay, as well, I would also use some sort of like Pomodoro technique and say, I am going to work for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to take a 5 to 15-minute break where I walk away. I literally walk away, go do something, get a drink of water, walk around the block, let your mind clear, you know, not so long that you've totally lost track or you're like, don't fully engage in some sort of other project, but use that time effectively. You know, stand up, move, stretch, you'll physically feel better, get rehydrated, and clear your mind for a minute, and then come back in and get back to work. And that can go a long way, so you don't get burnt out as quick. You know, take breaks, eat, that type of normal stuff. So I think that's one of them, and you know, a lot of it is tough. So mentally, one last thing you can do is, what's this reason that you're working such long hours? What's the goal? All right. Some of these people that you hear about who do work like this, some of them have some goals that really define their life. Okay, and so it's tough. You know, maybe if back when I was in college, I couldn't say, oh boy, I'm writing this paper on whatever random subject was assigned to me, and that's my goal. You know, that wouldn't keep me up all night writing a paper, but maybe I would be up all night working on it or studying, saying, okay, wow, this is how I'm going to get my degree. This is what's going to help me achieve my current life goal, which at that time, you know, was, hey, I want to graduate college. It's important to me. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but that's what I wanted. So I think keeping those types of things in mind can help you tackle that and help you during your low points too. So hopefully this was helpful for everybody this week. If you got any more questions, you can always let me know. Just pop them on losing my mind, on the Facebook page is fine. And then there's also the link, productivity.academy/questions. So you can ask those at any time, and then they pop into a spreadsheet and I can answer them. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please click subscribe if you want to stay up to date. If you're on Facebook, leave me a note. Let me know what you're thinking about in terms of productivity process, you know, anything, apps, stuff like that. And like I said, I'll be putting together a Facebook group soon, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, and I'll have some more information soon. So have a good one.